Hello! I'm back. I know you were just all waiting. But guess who got a ring light? Well, a little one. Not the full size you could put your whole head through or nothing. I could wear it like a bangle. Now I have that glow in my eyes that a lot of YouTubers have from just staring at a ring light. I'm excited. IKEA, weirdly enough. Dinky's been crazy this past week, so we'll see how this goes. Hello, honey. It's just me and my cat. She wants all the cords. There's 3 different cords for this little setup right now. Ma'am. But anyway, we're doing something a bit different for this true crime time. No, we're doing something a bit different for this true crime. We're fighting off Dinky, but we are also, it's not necessarily just about like, she's attacking Bip. Yeah, you. Yeah, he's fuzzy, don't eat him. But today's true crime is a bit different because it's not necessarily just about death and sadness. And now she's going after Philip. And now she's done. Sorry, Bip. But today's it's a bit different video of true crime time because it's not solely about one person dying or just sad, heavy. This is still not great, but it's more of a history thing than necessarily a true crime thing, if that makes sense. I could see Bailey Sarian doing a dark history episode of this. Maybe. It seems like it. I had no idea it was a thing. But there is so many victims of this. This happened between 1947 and about 1956 to be exact. But it can still be seen now what we're going to be talking about. And this was across the country, but mainly in government. We are talking about the Lavender Scare. Now, I hadn't heard of this before. I'd heard of the Red Scare back in school about how everyone's a communist, we're gonna die, that kind of thing. But this was the Lavender Scare. And I was Googling, I don't know, something about lavender, maybe what it looked like. Something involving the plant lavender. And this popped up, the Lavender Scare, the Google search. I'm like, well, what's that? Was there a time period where people were just terrified of lavender? Was lavender poison for some reason? Did it go bad and a lot of people got sick? Like, anything could happen. But the Lavender Scare, for a brief description, is a moral panic about LGBTQ plus people in the US government during the mid-20th century, aka primarily during the Cold War. It contributed to McCarthyism, which kind of goes hand in hand with the Red Scare, and it goes hand in hand with the second Red Scare, which I didn't realize there was multiple, and it's kind of sad that they didn't really get the hint the first time. But basically it all dealt with the fear of the rise of communism. It's just gonna get you. And disclaimer, I'm not like a fan of communism, but I do think it's kind of funny that they just thought communism was like a person just lurking around the corner, gonna get them. But you know what I mean. But this obviously took place during the Cold War, because that was, like, I believe the biggest, at least in the US, fear of communism, I feel like, for us, was during the Cold War, which makes sense, considering it was the Cold War. But it's continued beyond that. It didn't just stick with the Cold War, the Lavender Scare. And I've read that most historians, or people in general, not just historians, focus on the Red Scare or the second Red Scare, but actually far more people were harmed with the witch hunts that was the Lavender Scare, which I did not know. But the name, the Lavender Scare, came from the term Lavender Lads, used by Senator Everett Dirksen to describe gay men. At the beginning of the Cold War, which was about 1947, people started to panic and wanted to rid the government of quote-unquote commies and homosexuals, because it was basically the same thing to them. Commies, homosexuals, comosexual. I hope that's not a real thing I just said. But they believed queer folk to be more likely to be influenced by communism and quote unquote join its ways. So that was what they thought. That was the logic behind their reasoning. They just thought queer people were more susceptible to communism ways, because that's what gay people want, is an even more oppressive government. But under President Eisenhower, a dual loyalty security test became the standard screening model for people in government. This test looked for, quote, habitual drunkenness, sexual perversion, moral turpitude, financial irresponsibility, or criminal record. Not and criminal record, or criminal record, end quote. Most of these I can understand. You don't want someone drunk or really perverted, or I'm still not quite sure what moral turpitude was. I think it was something, when I Googled it, just outside of societal norms that made people uncomfortable. I guess financial responsibility you wouldn't want, especially if they're gonna work with like the budget. Like I could see, and you don't necessarily want someone with a huge criminal record. Which, in a sense, this makes sense. But what they were really using it for was the sexual perversion part, which meant gay to them. So they were really just looking for if you were gay or not. Gay or not. I don't know why my voice went so low. So between 1947 and, there's a fly in here, 1950, over 1,700 applicants were denied due to homosexuality. And due to this time period, we can't be sure that all these people were actually gay. I'm sure lots of them were. But due to this time period, if you weren't a freaking lumberjack or a Playboy bunny, they might just assume you're gay. Even if, you know what I mean? You could be straight, but you're like, well, you're not ripped. You're not currently married to a lady. You don't have like 5 kids. You must be gay. So all in all, just not great unless you're the stereotypical hetero male or hetero female in this time period. Now, it's presumed, I don't know for certain, but it was presumed anyone gay in the government was fired at this point. So it was about 425 people around 1950, which seems like a lot. And get this, because, you know, we all seem to be about fighting and winning the wars, especially World War II. But up to 5,000 men were turned away to fight in World War II due to gayness. And that's a whole nother thing itself. I'm not going to dive into that, but like up to 5,000 men were turned away because they could be gay. Again, we don't know if they were all gay or not. None of them like signed a document, I don't think, that said, yes, I am for sure gay. Now, remember when I mentioned McCarthyism? Didn't like the gays. That's how it pertains to this. But, quote unquote, fun fact, Joseph McCarthy, who obviously started the McCarthyism, giving his last name, was believed to be a closeted gay man himself. Of course, why? That always confuses me more. Like, why would you do this if he was truly gay? I mean, we don't know for certain. At least I don't know for certain. Why would you do this to your people? It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. But it is said that many men in government would act extra straight to not be accused of homosexuality / communism. So men wouldn't be seen in pairs and made statements when introducing themselves about how they were straight. A lot of men would be like, hi, I'm Stephen Robert. I am married to a woman with 2 kids. Like, right off the bat, like, I am married to a lady, I reproduced, I made children with my weenus, I am straight. Don't fire me. So in 1953, President Eisenhower signed Executive Order 10450, which barred homosexuals, or all queer people, not just gay men, from working in federal government. This was an order. From this, hundreds of gay people were forcibly outed and fired from the State Department. And that was about 5,000 people that was fired from the federal government. Again, we don't know if all these people were, like, gay. They could have just seemed gay to the paranoid people. But just to be forcibly outed, especially in this time period, was rough. And to lose your job. And I hear working in government, you get some pretty nice benefits, so they lost those too. This is not a good time for them. But it was forced out of the closet into the public eye. People would know them. And that would make it worse. It's like if you're the governor of Ohio and they fired you because you were, if you're actually gay or if they just thought you were gay, people would be like, why is our governor stepping down? Oh, he's got the homosexual disease. Oh. Like, they'd probably be followed. They'd probably get death threats at this time period. It was just not good. And in this time period, some people were even fired or turned down from a job for association with gay people. AKA, I don't know, if your aunt's gay, you can't have the job. If you are friends with a gay man, you can't have that job, which is insane. And how would they even know that? And this order moved down from the federal government into the state governments and even local governments. This was, quote unquote, pretty much in order until the whole don't ask, don't tell thing. I believe that was Bush, or was that Clinton? Why didn't I write that down? I don't think I was alive yet. Or I was a baby. I don't remember who. I think it was Clinton. I think. But that, again, is a whole other thing itself. Whole lot to do with that. I'm not going to dive into it because I didn't do a lot of research on it. I just know what integrated a little bit into this. But the Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed by Obama in 2017. And another reason why people were suspicious of gays was because they were different. And you know who else was different? Communists. Perfect logic. And because it was different, people viewed communism and homosexuality as diseases and invasions of America. Being gay was seen as unpatriotic. Some even believed the gays were trying to control the world. And that's why they couldn't work for the government. Because them gays and the communism ways, didn't mean to rhyme, are trying to take over the world. One source randomly said, through art. I don't know. But I thought that was funny to throw in there. And I did want to say a side note that both political parties, well, just like all the political parties, because there are third parties, obviously, were guilty of not trusting gays around this time. So it wasn't just, because I know some people associate Republican Party for not liking the gays, but everyone was suspicious of the gays that are communists back then. No one was innocent except for probably the gays. Side note 2. I got some side notes. There was a subcommittee who investigated, quote, employment of homosexuals and other sex perverts in government, end quote. That was a real subcommittee. Definitely check to make sure you don't have any perverts in there that are harassing coworkers or children. But I don't think you have to worry about if they're just gay, in my opinion. But I wasn't around then. I could have stopped this all. But as I said, being gay was viewed as a mental disorder at this time. And I know some people still view it as that. So, therefore, they shouldn't have these type of jobs anyway, even though they're probably communists too, according to their logic. Because they're unwell. They just can't do it. They can't be here. It's too much. It's not American. And I know I've mentioned a lot of gay men during this time, but do remember this was the 50s, and women couldn't do much. So lesbians weren't seen as large of a threat, because it said there was just less of them. But they were mainly because they were women. They didn't view women as big of threats back then. And just based off of our government now, the majority was men. So they weren't as concerned with lesbians or queer women. They were just concerned with basically just gay men or gay acting men. And unfortunately, I read that this movement, the Lavender Scare movement, spread to even teachers, particularly in Florida. They really jumped on that Lavender Scare bandwagon. Almost 200 quote-unquote gay teachers were fired. Must be nice to have that many teachers to spare. I don't know how many states actually did this whole we must get rid of gay acting teachers, but I know Florida, it was called the Purple Pamphlet, which I did not dive into that info either. Really jumped on that bandwagon. They really just didn't want gay teachers. They didn't want no gay people. They didn't want no communists, and they didn't want no gay communists. Okay. And these investigations in the government would keep happening until or into the 1990s. It obviously dwindled when the Cold War ended and just was the hippie, freedom, love movement and just the flow of time. But we still know that gays and the LGBTQ plus community are scrutinized and thought of as weird, or some people think them as mentally ill. But in January of 2017, I don't know if it was after Obama repealed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell thing, but the State Department formally apologized. I read that someone had to edge them onto it, but I'll take it. Well, it's not really for me, but they did you know what I'm saying. It's nice that they apologized. Now, I meant to say this at the beginning, but there is so much more to this, and it's very political, which I'm not a super political person, so I don't quite understand all the ins and outs of policies and executive orders and subcommittees and all that stuff. But also, I didn't want this video to be super freaking long, which is boring, in my opinion, boring political stuff. So this is just basically the basics. It may seem a bit over the place because I was trying to just find important tidbits in my research. There is actually, I was intrigued in watching it. There's a documentary that came out in 2017 as well. A lot of things happened in 2017 involving this. The documentary is called The Lavender Scare, so pretty easy to remember. It was narrated by Glenn Close. I've heard of that lady. I thought, just throw that fact in there. I tried looking it up, where you could watch it. Doesn't seem to be available to stream anywhere. So just wait, I guess, till maybe a streaming platform takes it on so you can watch it. Maybe if you have actual cable and TV, just scroll through your channels periodically, see if it's there. I think I read something about PBS shows it. I don't know if that's true. But check there. Or, there's no video stores really anymore. If you have one, go check there, I guess. Check your library. This documentary seems like it have a home there. But I was going to have that this is on Netflix. Just go check it out, learn more. But all I can tell you is that there's a documentary and I don't know where you can watch it. But if you know how, let me know in the comments below because I am intrigued. But that is it for me today. Not quite the same as my usual true crimes. I want to say a little bit more lighthearted, but not really. There's no one just getting straight up murdered. But again, we don't know that for sure. I just thought this was interesting, and I'm surprised I never knew about this. It's crazy. Did any of you who watched, the 10 people who watched these, did you learn about the Lavender Scare? Or just the Red Scare / second Red Scare? Let me know. No idea what's coming up next. Dinky finally settled down in her cat tree. I kind of hoped she'd lay down here so you can look at the nice, warm, fuzzy little orange cat. But she does what she pleases. I'm beginning to learn. But that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this slight change of pace. I hope you kind of learned the gist of this. And I hope you go out and do more research of your own, because I obviously do not know all the facts. See you next time, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the ring light, aka better quality, sort of, lighting. I got a mic, a ring light. I'm so professional. Anyway, have a good day and see you next time.